In the last episode, I showed you how the timetable generator program works, creating all of the timetables needed for the newest franchise on the network. As for today's episode, we're moving on to the fun stuff. You've seen all the boring admin stuff that goes on in the background, but today, you're going to find out what really makes this network tick. Hey everyone, it's M4J here, and welcome back to the M4J Network Database Project. Technically here on openttd, although we won't be in here for much longer. I like to start these episodes just by showing you bits of the network. Today we're over here at Honningville. There's a train just coming out of the depot, which is being a little on the loud side, but it should calm down in just a minute. This is one of the Northwestern trains, which uses Honningville as its base, and will be heading up the Great Northern and the Grand Northern main lines, and I want to guess that you are just going to Beffingway. Yes, I think the double units are the Beffingway trains, and all of the others are the single units are the branch trains. Although there's only one of those in operation at the moment, as you would have seen in the last episode of the M4J Network. I'm blithering on. I've got a lot to cover in today's episode, so I'm going to head straight over to the Chrome window. And we're going to start talking about how the conflict detector and resolver actually works. Okay, let me give you a quick version of the story so far, and then we're going to get into the third and final program that I've got set up for you all here. So this is the first one. As you remember, the train journey scheduler, although it's the train journey creator in reality. But this is the one that we use to turn our very ugly looking spreadsheet into a very beautiful schedule. And as we're still working with the Western Reaches South, I can never say that properly, they're all in here, ready to go. I'm just checking that I have indeed filled it in properly, because it's a little too late for that now, but I can go back and do it again. I just need to then redo all of this, and then redo all the stuff here, which is the timetable generator. Although I only need to do it for the one that's bad. I don't need to do it for all of them. I should have shown you what the JSON file looks like. I might do that in a minute. The JSON file that's generated from this download, this download button here, because there's actually quite a lot of useful stuff in there. A lot of this stuff is contained within there, or at least the minimum vehicles, the service designator, which isn't in this window actually, but probably should be. I think the frequency is stored there too. And the layovers are stored there, or at least the minimum layover, which is this number here in this case. But yeah, that's quite an interesting thing, the JSON file. So maybe I will go and show you that, because I will be showing you another JSON file in just a second. So I might as well show you both at the same time. Today, though, we are working with this. This is the conflict resolver. It's technically the conflict detector as well, but primarily it is the conflict resolver. First things first, this button here, ignore it entirely. Never got around to taking this out. I don't think it actually does anything now, but this was if there were sections of track. So for example, on the Country Western line, which Northwestern does operate between Sunnington and Canal Street. Well, actually, it's between Sunnington and Gronville West. But there's a section where Canal Street Station is, which is just outside Morningpool Falls. There is a bridge, and that bridge is single track. And the idea would have been you tick this, and then you can tell it that between those two waypoint stations, whatever it might be, there is a single track section. And it would then not put two trains on that section of track at the same time. Very difficult to implement, though. So we're actually not doing that. The new system will be a much better way of doing it. The last couple of episodes as well, I've not really talked a huge amount about what's gone wrong with this program. And that's because most of it is in this one. So you're going to get a full breakdown now. As I sob myself to sleep. No, I'm kidding. You're going to get a full breakdown now as to how this works, what's good about it, what's not so good about it, and all that good stuff. So let's get into it. First thing we're going to do, and again, you're not going to see this because a pop-up box will come up, but I'm going to hit Choose Files here. We are about to upload a ton of files. So bear with me just 1 second. Where's the folder gone? There it is. 44 JSON files are about to be uploaded here, and you're going to see the screen change. So around, can you see my cursor? I don't think you can right now because it's in the other window. But if I hit open here, there you go. These are all the schedules we're going to be running here today. And you will notice there is here times run. This is important. This was to make sure that existing schedules were not affected where possible. So Bartholomew Square to Guard City Punfingford Airport T1, that's already been run twice. In fact, all of these have been run twice, except for the Western Reaches South ones that we set up in the last episode of this series, and the Northwestern ones that we set up not in the last episode of the M4J Network, but the one before that. Those have only been run once, and of course the Western Reaches South ones haven't been run at all. This is what we're going to be working with today. All of these files, these are all services that exist on the network. I have not included the ones that have recently been withdrawn. I could have. There was no reason not to, other than they're not running at the moment, so there's no reason to have them. It does mean that re-implementing them in the future means I would have to run this program again, but I'm not planning on re-implementing them anytime soon. I'm just keeping the schedules in place for historical reasons, really, so I can remember where they ran to and things. Anyway, I've got to get through this because there's a lot that we're doing today. So the next thing is we hit the Start Conflict Detection button. This resolution log down here, keep an eye on this. These are all the conflicts here that are being detected and resolved. I have botched this already. Let's go scroll to the top. There we go. These are all the conflicts, and you can see, look, there are 17,483 conflicts that it's discovered. I wish I could scroll down more, but I am actually at the bottom of the screen right now. It is currently going through the auto filter section of the program. So it is looking at all of these conflicts that it's discovered, and it's seeing if they're actually genuine conflicts. So there might be a case where two trains arrive and leave a station at the exact same time, but one's heading west and one is heading east. And therefore, that is not a genuine conflict. So that will get filtered out. And that's what this auto-resolved is here. So out of the 17,483, we've got nearly 6,500, in fact, it's just crossed over 6,500 that are auto-resolved. So we're not going to be dealing with 17,500 conflicts. This is taking longer and longer each time I run this, which is one of the first problems with this program, is we're not even halfway through this yet, and I am running out of things to say about it. When I first did this, it was extremely quick. If you are able to read what's happening on the screen down here, by the way, you will see the reasons as well why it's being auto-filtered. So chains do not share a common track, I think is one of them, or opposite direction on route. We're at Sunnington right now. What's worrying is Sunnington is a terminus, but the terminology remains the same as if it was a through station. So, yeah, we've got ones where it says do not share a common route, but I guarantee you they do. It's just there are certain rules in place for how terminus stations work, and ultimately, as long as there's not a direct conflict at terminus stations, we will get to something to do with that in just a second. There's no reason to panic. Now we're at Guard City Punfingford Airport Terminal 1. We haven't got to... I'm just thinking how many trains call at Terminal 3 over there. There will be more in the future, but right now there aren't many. But I believe when the Guard City Connect franchise gets up and running, that'll be when that station becomes incredibly busy. We've reached 10,000. Excellent. And we've got almost all of those auto-resolved, which is even more excellent. I have not, that's one other thing I wanted to point out, I have not yet implemented the fix for fast trains chasing slow trains. So that is a problem that may exist again after this has been finished. Not a lot I can do about that right now. There's a couple of reasons. First of all, I just wanted to get this video out so you guys can see how the existing program works before we start tinkering with it, and maybe the tinkering of it will actually be the first proper episode of this series where we're actually doing proper development and not just showing off what's already here. And the second reason is I am incredibly intimidated when I look at the code right now. I know what needs to happen. Basically, there's a function that generates the occupancy period. That number is then used elsewhere in the code. So I know where the occupancy period is. I just need to take that number and put it into a new function that then adds the headway of that service designator. And that's the bit where I'm struggling, because it'll literally just have to be a case of find all the instances, like create the function first and foremost, and make sure that works correctly. Then find all the instances where the occupancy period is used during the conflict detection and replace that with the running period, which is the occupancy period plus the headway. And that's the bit where I'm intimidated, because getting that bit right is going to be tricky. You'll notice now we're up to 12,000 here, and 11,000, just coming up to 12,000, have been auto-resolved. It's surprising, actually, how few of the conflicts end up being genuine. So you can see we've got 17,483, but we're probably going to end up with somewhere between 1 and 3,000 actually being genuine, and that's at the higher end. The worst one, well, the best one, I suppose, the lowest one, was quite recently when I added the Great Northern and West Winds. I believe there was like 8,000 originally detected, and then it dropped down to 500 by the time we actually got to the next stage of the program, which is quite impressive. It means that the auto filter is actually doing its job, which I'm quite happy about, because originally, before I came up with the idea for the auto filter, I had to go through and manually clear all of these, which meant in this case I had to manually clear 17,500 conflicts. The good news is there is a part of the program which existed back then where if I clear one conflict, all other... Excuse me, I got hiccups today. I don't know what's going on. All other conflicts related to that conflict, so all other conflicts involving that service at that station within that frequency, were all auto-cleared as well. So ticking one box could end up ticking 20, you know? And that did cut down the time quite a lot as well. I wasn't expecting this part of the process to take as long as it has, and this is actually the shortest of the 3 bars that we'll be seeing today, so that's quite concerning. But, you know, this was always going to be a big project, what I'm showing off for you here today. I'd like to think there will be some people out there quite impressed by this, but I know there's going to be a lot of coders out there who are going to be horrified at what they're going to see in just a moment. But there's something really, really cool coming up, so I do want you guys to stick around and see that. And I was tempted to put a cut in here, but I do want you to see as much of the organic process as possible. And we're only 2,400 and something away now, so there's no reason for you to disappear. If you are still reading the one down here, by the way, look, we've got the new ones now, Portfield. That's one of the new stations, and actually you can see there's quite a lot of conflicts there, but most of them are being auto-resolved, which is awesome. The one thing that is missing in all of this now is once the auto process has completed, there is no longer a window that shows you what the conflicts are. There used to be in the old system, but that's been removed now. New Puston, that's another new station. I don't know if this is, I don't think it's alphabetical order, is it? Because we've just gone from P to N. So I don't actually know how this is done, whether it's done just by journey order or not. I don't know. So yeah, there's no way other than going into the browser console, which is something I did during development, but I won't be doing today. There's no way of actually seeing what the remaining conflicts are. That will change moving forward. Even if I have a fully automated process in the new database system, I still want the user to see where the issues are, because it might be something that they can fix themselves and it doesn't have to be done manually. So I'll have to come up with an idea for that. But again, if you're watching this and you have any ideas for how to go about that, by all means let me know. It'll be greatly appreciated. We are on the home straight. We've got less than 1,000 to go now. And as again you can see, 15,000 of these have been auto-resolved. There's a lot at New Puston. We have a lot of services terminating there. I think there's 2 services, 2 semi-fast services, I believe, 1 stopping service, and basically everything passes through New Puston apart from 1 service that goes from GSMI to Fort Flonwood that doesn't stop there because it doesn't reach it. But yeah, we are so nearly there. I'm estimating it at around maybe 1,500 that won't be auto-resolved now. Ish. This is coming up to 15,900, so that would be 1,500, wouldn't it? So, yeah. That's not too bad. And you'll see once we do the next section that this will start to come down quite a lot as well. But as I said, the next section is actually the most tedious of all of this bit. But there's still quite a lot of, I guess, enjoyment involved. So I'll show you that now because we've done it. So that resolution log has now moved down here. We have 1,367 genuine conflicts. 16,116 were auto-resolved. That's pretty good. Now we have this. This is the Manage Station Capabilities screen. This is my favorite part of this entire program. I'm going to do another little magic trick because what you can do is select all the stations manually here and put in their platforms. And then from that, you can add in the capabilities of those platforms. So what this means is, for example, Guard City St. George has, I think it's 36 platforms in total, but say only three of them are on the Hatfield Light Railway. So you'll put in Guard City St. George, total number of platforms is 36, but then you'll select the 3 platforms that are on the Hatfield Light Railway. So let's say they're 34, 35 and 36. And then from there you will specify that these are the Hatfield Light Railway platforms. So they only run between Halliday Circus to the south and Hunway HLR to the north. We're not dealing with the HLR today, so we don't have to worry about that. But what that basically means is there's lots of stations I've got here. Fort Flonwood Parkway is one of them, where there's perpendicular platforms, or there's platforms that branch off, and it just allows you to tell the program how it works. You might be reading this right now. This isn't entirely accurate. For example, we don't have London, Birmingham, Manchester. Out of service is trains running to and from the depot. We'll come to that in just a second as well. I'm going to hit the upload capabilities button here because I have technically cheated. And somewhere in one of my folders, timetables, station capabilities, there. I have already done all of the stations for the existing network bar the Western Reaches South. So that's what we're going to be working on now. So you can see how this works. This is Honningville's, for example. It's got the 11 platforms all in situ. There are some issues here. For example, they don't have... Yeah, platform 8 is missing. Platform 7 is there. So what have we got? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. It only seems to be platform 8 that's actually missing. I think that's the one that runs north. Yeah, I think that's the one that runs north through on the fast lines, and that's because the express between Guard City St. George and Warnbridge Airport switches to the slow lines before it passes through Honningville Station. So that's why there's one missing. This is another downside to this system here, is currently it only works with existing services. So there are no services that use that platform at that station. For example, here at Guard City St. George, there were no services that use the other platforms at the station. So we've only got 5 platforms here actually identified, and all of this will have to be removed and redone when we start adding the Grand Northern services, for example, or the Overground, or the ones on the centre rail lines as well. So there are drawbacks to this. Ones where it's a complete station, like Bartholomew Square, this works really, really well. That is a full station, fully implemented, which is really cool. I've got openttd open on my monitor here as well. If I was to open that now, yeah, I can have it in the background. So I can tab in and out of this and show you guys what's going on. But essentially here, there's Wenfingfield. There's no order to this. It's literally the order that I've done it in. There may be a way to make it display in alphabetical order, but I feel like that's not necessary. So I'm not going to worry about that. But what I am going to do, just quickly on the game, is zoom out here, head over to GSMI, and I'm going to start working on the route from start to finish. Now, you're not going to be forced to sit and watch all of this. I just want to give you some demonstrations as to how this works. So the first one we're going to be working on is GSMI Fast Approach 2. Now that is actually already on here somewhere, I think. So we're going to go up to the top. And we're going to use the drop down here, which again you can't see unfortunately. These are displayed in alphabetical order on the drop down, so that's going to make my life a lot easier. GSMI fast approach 2. Oh, maybe it's not already there. Huh, that's interesting. I thought I'd done this, but maybe not. Yeah, okay. So we're going to have to do these then. So fast approach, let's do slow approach 1 first. There are 4 tracks. We're then going to select, so there's the drop down here now. Again, I wish you could see it. Maybe, hang on, let me see if I can change this. There we go. Now you can see just what's on my main monitor. Yeah, that's a lot better. Hopefully you can read the text. That's one thing I've not checked. Hopefully it scales it properly. Apologies if not. But now you should be able to see the drop down. And if I show you this one, the drop down. Awesome. So track 1. This is a conundrum. What's track 1? What's track 2? In this instance, we're working with, again, you can see the game now as well. So here we're working with slow approach 1. So track 1, I guess, is going to be the northernmost here. So we're going to say track 1 here. You can already see the chains have appeared. I think I've explained what chains are before, but essentially the chains are, this is the current in the middle. So slow approach 1, slow approach 1. These are the ones either side. And we can select here. So you can see, trains coming through this way. Slow 2 would be the previous. GSMI will be the next. If it's coming the other way, then it will be the other way around. GSMI will be the previous, and slow approach 2 will be the next. So now we've got the gist of it. I can go through and say for slow approach 1, I want to say one of these is one way. Is it 3? Is it 4? Ah, it's 4. Okay. So platform 1 is a through, and both chains can use it. So we can hit update. Now this window appears. We don't need to worry about this for this particular one, but this will become important later. If I now scroll down to the bottom, if I knew how to scroll, there you go. The latest one there, GSMI slow approach 1, and there's the platforms in situ. Here's another example here, Gronville West. There's 6 platforms here, but I've only got the chains for 2 of them, which are 5 and 6. So that looks really odd, the way that's been done. The new system will allow me to put... it won't work on chains like this. Chains will still be used for the conflict detection and stuff. Chains, that was the other thing I was meant to say. Chains are used to determine direction of travel. So this top one here is trains heading to Guard City, and this one here is heading away from Guard City. So when it was saying in the auto resolution about chains not matching, this is what it was referring to. The fact that trains were traveling in opposite directions, which in cases like this could be an issue. But in other cases where there's a 2-track station, if one's heading north and one's heading south, they're obviously not conflicting if they're on separate tracks. So it auto resolves that as a conflict. Sorry, my bottle just made a really loud noise there. I'm trying to drink more as I record, so I think that's why I end up coughing in your ears. Anyway, just quickly, because I know how this works now. Platform 2 is that. Platform 3 is that. And then platform 4, and it's platform, but it's actually track in this case. This is only for trains leaving St. Michael. Right. With that one done, we can now head over to 2, because we've got to do the same thing. And I think the signalling is also the same, is it not? Yes, it is. Well, that just made my life a whole lot easier. So this right now, I can't do anything with it. I have to put in the number of platforms first. Now this becomes active. It's a really cool feature, I think, at least. I'm a big fan of it. Yes. So this is the first case now. This is why we have to do this, because this is designed so that if I left this as is, it would set one track for each chain, which technically in this case isn't the worst thing in the world, but it's good to let it know that the first track here can actually take all 4 of these. And the reason I say all 4 is because this is where it splits. So these ones go up this way, and that's Western Reaches North release, and that's Western Reaches South release. So this is where it splits into the Western Reaches North and the Western Reaches South. So doing it this way is crucial. I'm going to do that. Control A, add update. Now you're wondering what that other bit is that keeps popping up. This section here. We're going to come to that in just a second, because, excuse me, I think the next one, oh, that's not right. Hang on. What I've done there is balked it. So I'm going to find that one again. We're going to select platform 4. Now this needs to change. So it's only the ones coming out of Guard City that this one works with. So we're going to do that. Now if I scroll down, hopefully track 4. Yeah, you can see it's only got 2 chains, whereas the other ones have got 3. 4, sorry. That really confused me then. I was like, that doesn't look like 3. But yeah, that's all correct now. Cool. Technically, we need to do that for the fast ones too. So I'm just going to do that really quickly. Just remind myself which of these. That's 3 on that one. Is it 3 on that one? No, it's 4 on that one. Okay, and then your fast approach 1. Yes. So fast approach 1 has 4 tracks. The first one here is a through, and that is for both. Track 2, through for both. Track 3, through for both. And then track 4, through, but only leaving St. Michael. We then select this one. 4 tracks. Track 1, through for all. Track 2, through for all. Track 3, through, but only for the ones leaving. And then track 4, through for all. Cool. So they're all set up now. Now we need to follow the line here. In the case of this station, it doesn't matter. We don't need to do anything for this one because it's going to create one platform for each chain. There's only 2 chains. There's one heading west. There's one heading east. So we can ignore that one. The next one that matters though is this one, Little Prawning Well. So we are going to select that on this list now. Little Prawning Well, we're going to head down to L and Little Prawning Well. There it is. Now Little Prawning Well has 6 platforms. Count them with me. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 platforms it actually has in total. So we're going to select all of those now. Now platform 1, I'm a bit of a traditionalist in this sense, in that I like my platform 1s to be heading towards the city. So in this case, the northernmost track here is platform 1. That is a through platform, although technically it's not, because I believe, sorry, this side, yeah, it's actually a terminating one, but we don't have any chains that go Fort Woodstone to Fort Woodstone, so we're not going to do that. I don't think we're going to do that for any of them here. It's a lot easier to change the chains here afterwards, so we're not going to worry too much about that. So we're going to select Preffing Field East to Little Prawning Well to Fort Woodstone, and we're going to confirm. Track 2 is through, and we're going to do the same thing. Track 3 is through, and we're going to do, whoops, didn't select the chain. And then track 4 is the opposite. It's this one, because we're coming out of the city. Track 5 is through, because we're coming out of the city. We choose that one again, and then track 6 through, and that one. Now if we head back to platform 1 here, it's already got the chain. Now we need to set up this. Now this is the direct clashes. Head back over here for a second. We have a train coming towards Guard City. It reaches this signal here, comes through here and starts to enter platform 1. Meanwhile, there's a train on platform 3, also heading to Guard City. Under the current rules, this train will not be allowed to leave whilst this one is arriving. And likewise, this one is not allowed to arrive whilst this one is leaving. But in reality, you can see there's 3 tracks here that head towards Guard City. There's no reason why a train can't leave heading towards Guard City whilst another one is arriving. That's what this is for. So we have a new window that pops up. Prefing field east to Fort Woodstone. We ignore the middle one here. This is my terminology again. Arrival. Now we can clash with any chain. So we can have, in theory, 2 trains arriving at the same time. Now that's not good for us here, so we're not going to do that. But we can have it clash with a departure. So this chain, oh, should probably fix that at some point. This chain, arrival, this chain, departure, and it's the same chain. If we hit save, we now have this come up. Excuse me. We then do the opposite. So this one, departure, can clash with this one, arrival. Now it might seem weird that we have to set it up twice, but unfortunately that's the way the program ended up being. This was recommended to me and I don't really know why, but it was, so there we go. I now need to do that again for this platform. I wish there was more copy and pasting in this, to be honest, because that would make my life a lot easier. Arrival. We then do the same for platform 3. Oh my god, my voice has gone again. This is a different day I'm recording this on from the other 2, and I thought that would help. I thought wrong, quite clearly. But yep, there's the arrival. And then these ones, we're going to do the opposite, because obviously these are traveling in the other direction. So it's this one, arrival, this one, departure, this one, departure, this one, arrival. And yeah, you get the idea. We don't have to do this for every station, as I said. But any station really with more than 4 platforms, we do actually have to do this too. So that is that one, arrival, departure, departure, arrival. And then for platform 6, which is the last one we're doing here, that one, whoops, arrival. Doesn't actually matter what order you do them in. But I might as well do them in alphabetical order here. There we go. These are now all listed. If I scroll down. Excuse me, sorry, I just had to mute to cough for a second. There you go, direct clash rules defined, and there's 2 on each platform. And you can see all of the chains. I'm now going to hit this button, which is going to download that to my downloads folder. And you can see here in the resolution log, you should be able to read it, that everything is being accounted for correctly, which is useful. What I'm going to do now, because this takes a long time to do, I'm going to go and fill in these stations manually off camera. Before I do that, it gives me 2 reasons for doing that, by the way. First one is I can rest my voice. Second one is this could take over an hour, and we're not going to sit you guys down here for an hour and worry about that. But what I am going to do quickly before that is I'm going to show you those 2 JSON files that I was talking about. So let me find the Express, this one. I'm hoping it works in Notepad. Here you go. So this is the Guard City St Michael to Sanley West sidings, which is in other words the Sanley Central non-stop express. You can see we've got the journey name, the transport type, and the service designator. These are the three identifying factors. We've then got minimum vehicles required, minimum layover, the overall journey time, that's important in a minute, the frequency, and then the times run, which is what you saw at the start. Then we've got the trip IDs. Now this is trip ID 1, which is operated by vehicle 1, and then we've got the legs. So this is leg 1A, and then this is the order of stops all the way down to, there's Kidinghatton we just went past. There's here. So this is where the outward leg ends. This is where the return leg or the inward leg begins. And then again we go all the way down here, and then we get to this, which is the end of trip 1. This is trip 2, which is run by vehicle 2. It may not be. Depending on the frequency, this may be run by vehicle 1 again. But in other words, this is the second trip, and then it just gives you the identity of the vehicle that is running it. And then it does the same thing again. And you'll see here that the times are going up. These are in absolute minutes, like I said last time. So this is number of minutes from midnight. So in this case, 516.5. That is whatever time that is. Let me do the maths. 600 is 10 a.m. So it's minus what, 83, which is an hour and 23. So we're talking 8:37. That sounds about right, doesn't it? God, I think I actually did some quick maths then. And you can see this is quite a long. There's 748 lines in this file, and it goes all the way down like so. The other thing I want to show you quickly, because I can get it open relatively quickly, that station capabilities file that I just spoke about, that we're actually using here. That looks like, excuse me, this. So all the information that you can see on the screen here is contained within this file here, apart from the ones we've just added, of course. So it might actually be possible to add the chains like this. So this is Guard City St. George, for example, up to, it's quite big actually. That's, wow, okay, I've just realized all of this is just platform 1 of GSG. That's quite insane. There's a lot here. But yeah, this is Bartholomew Square. This one. That's all the information for the station. There's no direct clash rules for Bartholomew Square because no train can arrive whilst another leaves. But once one is occupying a platform, then yeah, another one can enter or leave, whatever it might be. So yeah, I decided to set it up like this. And this is what it looks like. So I'm going to have to go and fill the rest of this in now. But I'm going to use this screen here in order to do it. I'm also going to turn off the main screen capture again. So when we come back, you'll be watching me on Chrome. The other thing is that download button is there for a couple of reasons. One, I don't want to have to do this every time. And two, it allows me to regularly basically save my work, make sure that I don't lose anything. So if this program decides to throw up an error at some point, I don't lose all the work that I've just put into it. So yeah, I'm going to go do that. I'll be back momentarily. Okay, a short while later, i.e. a couple of hours later, and a couple of throat lozenges as well, we are back, and hopefully this will work. Now I used the same version of the program but on a different device to do the station capabilities. I did it on my laptop. Then I opened the game on my laptop to also check that everything was as it should be. Made some changes to some of the programming on the signals on my laptop. Completely forgot that that's not the latest version of the save file. So now I'm going to have to do those again in just a second. But hopefully, if I click upload here and then head over to this, that appears to be the correct time. Yep. This should be it. This should be all the stations set up. And to test that, if I go down to the bottom here, there you go. You've got Sanley Central with all of its platforms. I did all 16 platforms at Sanley, but obviously only the first 10 actually have anything on them right now. You never know. Next few episodes of the M4J Network, we might be adding those extra 6. Technically, the last 3 are on the Sanley Bay lines, but I never used this program to create the Sanley Bay lines. Can you believe it? That predates this program. That was this year as well, I believe, the Sanley Bay lines. That shows how new this all is to me still. And yet, it feels like I've known it all my life. Wow. So I'm just going to quickly, because I've got the game open still, I'm just going to quickly check here that I've done this correctly. So Sanley, platform 1 is terminating, and it's only from the fast lines to the sidings. 2 is the same. 3 is terminating and in and out of service, which I think it just does that anyway, to be honest. But I'll just check that. 3 and 4 are both identical as well. So fast or TMD. Yep, that's correct. And then I think after that, everything else is as it should be. Right, I have not tested this. One thing I could clarify, though, was the fact, once again, 1,367 genuine conflicts, 16,116 were auto-resolved. So that number is the same. So that's not different. You'll see here it says, please define station physical layouts and platform usage before proceeding to Flexi-Schedule. So what's about to happen is I'm going to click this green button here. This load bar is then going to take us through the process. There are 2 stages. Phase 1 is clearing conflicts. And that is its only priority, is clearing conflicts without creating new ones, essentially. And it does this through a process called simulated annealing. And I've talked about this in the main series before, but to put it bluntly and to put it plainly, it essentially takes a stop, so like Sanley Central. Actually, no, it doesn't do that first. It takes a service. So let's say it takes the express from GSMI to Sanley. It then takes a stop on that service. So actually, it's only got 2 to choose from there, Guard City St. Michael and Sanley Central. It will then adjust the wait time by a small amount. I can't remember exactly off the top of my head what those parameters are right now. But because it's an express train, I think a minute is the minimum and like 5 minutes is the maximum, something like that. I can't remember. Or alternatively, it will take the entire schedule and it will offset it by a set amount. More on that in just a second. Once it's done that, it will then run the entire conflict detection process again. It will then decide whether or not there are more conflicts or less conflicts than there were previously. If there were less conflicts, it will accept it as a solution. If there are more, it will reject it, unless it sees that as a necessary evil. But I don't think it does that very often these days, because more often than not, it will actually resolve the conflicts, or at least lower the number of conflicts. We will have an up-to-date number of conflicts on the screen. There will also be something, I think it's called deviation or something like that. That's the next important bit. So once it resolves all the conflicts, it will go into phase 2. Phase 2 is trying to bring those schedules back as close to their original times as possible without creating new conflicts. And that's the longest part of this entire process. And we'll see how that works in just a second. So I'm going to hit the green button here, and I hope, fingers crossed, that we do clear all the conflicts. So let's go. Here we go. So phase 1. You can see the number of conflicts here. This should reduce as this goes through. Now each iteration is an attempt. So it's randomly selecting a service, then it's randomly selecting a station, and it's randomly applying an adjustment. Or it's taking the entire service and offsetting it by a certain amount. And it will do this up to, as you can see here, 100,000 times. Now, I've never reached 100,000 within this. It has always fixed it before that has happened. There is another rule in place. So if it doesn't hit 0, and I'm starting to worry actually because this number is not coming down, but it's out of nowhere, it will suddenly drop like a stone. But I think it's 2,500. If it does 2,500 consecutive iterations with no improvement, then it will auto fail, and then it will present the remaining conflicts to me or to you, depending on who's doing this. Once it gets into phase 2, there is also a number that it reaches of consecutive iterations without improvement before it times out. But in that case, I think that's set to 10,000 iterations. I've actually maxed out on the number of iterations without it reaching. I mean, it will never get back to the number it was at before, which is part of the problem with that. Because if it did that, it would reintroduce all of the conflicts again. I'm really worried as to why this isn't resolving any conflicts. I feel like I've done something wrong with the station capabilities. I also forgot to mention about the direct clashes. So there's two types of conflict in this. There's occupancy overlaps, and then there's direct clashes. Occupancy overlaps are if a train arrives at 6:01 and leaves at 6:03, and another train arrives at 6:02 and leaves at 6:04. Between 6:02 and 6:03 is a 1 minute occupancy overlap. If there are more than one platform for those two trains to sit side by side, it's not an issue. If there's only one platform that those two trains can occupy, then that's a conflict and that needs resolving. That's what the station capabilities is for. It tells the program how many platforms can accommodate that chain, essentially. The direct clashes is if a train is leaving at 6:01 whilst the one behind it is arriving at 6:01. Is that possible? More often than not, the answer is no. The reason that I have the direct clashes exceptions is because in cases like terminus stations, one train may be able to depart whilst another one arrives. And that, because of that, I can set that up accordingly. I feel like something's amiss here. Console. So these are when I imported all of the schedules. I'm not getting anything coming up to tell me what's wrong here. This is rather worrying, the fact that it's still on 400 after nearly 1,000 iterations. It's telling me that I've done something wrong, which is rather interesting. Again, this could just drop like a stone out of nowhere. The fact that it did start at, was it 1,000 and something? This, by the way, down here, once you put in the capabilities, you can see auto configured default capabilities 4, and it created the one platform per unique chain, but it also used that information to auto resolve other conflicts, which is good. Oh, what's that? I just saw some green. Okay, yeah, so there were 1,367 conflicts remaining. We have got that down to 400. But this number should be dropping a lot lower. So I'm a little bit concerned as to why that is. I might put a quick cut in here. And if it reaches phase 2, I'll bring you back. And if it doesn't, we'll explore why. And I'll let you know. But I'll be back again in just a second. Okay, so this is a confirmed failure. And just to check, I've run it again. Run it both on this device and my laptop. Ran it on my laptop twice, in fact, and even on my laptop I ran it without all of the other services. So I just took the Western Reaches South ones and ran those, and we ended up with the same result. The only difference was it was 328 conflicts remaining, not 400. So clearly there's something wrong on the line between Preybourne and Sunnington, but there are also 328 conflicts just on the Western Reaches South line itself. Now this, as you can see here, the console, I didn't see this earlier when it was running after it failed the first time, but I went back and found it. These are the remaining conflicts after the resolution. So these are, let me show you this quickly because I didn't do this properly either earlier. These are the itineraries that are generated when you import a service. So one of the JSON files goes in, this is what's created. So you can see I selected vehicle 3, Wenfingfield to Plindham Junction, this is. So it's actually one of the existing ones, one of the Western Reaches North ones. Maybe I should do it with one of the new ones. Here you go. Sanley to New Puston, we'll choose vehicle 1. This is its daily itinerary. So this is the first bit. There are, what, 450 stations that are in the itinerary from start to finish, but this is the start of it. I'm just seeing if there's a full it doesn't appear to be. Where do you go? You go to New Puston, which is, oh my life, there's Kindinghatton. There's New Puston. So yeah, there is a full one actually. Where's, there it is. So I'm going to select that Sanley, and I'm going to select that Sanley. And you see this one, for the stop type, it says absolute start. For this one, it says inter turnaround. And then for New Puston, it says intra turnaround. So absolute start, we'll come to that in a second. Intra turnaround is the turnaround station or the terminus station between the outward and the inward legs, or the return legs in this case. So New Puston is the terminus. So this is the intra turnaround, and this is assigned as the schedule is being processed. You saw those 44 schedules, all of these ones here, being processed. This is what happens on every single one of them. So there's the intra turnaround. The inter turnaround is the end of one journey, so the final stop of an return leg, and the first stop of the outward leg, so the next journey that vehicle undertakes. So in this case, as I said, Sanley is the origin station. So the train comes in and then goes back out again on its next journey. And it does this back and forth all day. Now, absolute start, just to shut these for a second, absolute start is assigned to the very first stop of the day. So when it comes out of the depot, it's no longer out of service, it is now in service. That is the absolute start. On the opposite side of that scale, this Sanley Central at the end here is absolute end. And the reason those have got different tags is because different parameters are applied to them. There are different limits that are applied to these stations and the stop times depending on what they are. This is the bit I'm not understanding right now, is why these are remaining as conflicts. So this here is Fendingworth South, which I believe is a waypoint. Although I don't think it tells me here. It does tell me what the conflict is though. And it tells me there's two platforms at the station, both of which have been assigned as through, one per chain. That is correct. Yes, that does appear to be correct. My God, I can't get my words out now. What services are these? Drunnington and Tenfing Bridge to Sunnington. So that's a West Wind service, and GSE to Sunnington. Why are these conflicting still? Oh. Okay, this is, I think, to do with the waypoint fixing that I was doing before. Stations not being counted as waypoints. But yeah, you can see, this is the kind of cool information. So the overlap duration here is 0, which seems like it shouldn't be an overlap. But actually it's this, if you look. So V1 is Drunnington and Tenfing Bridge to Sunnington. It's that service. It arrives at 354.75, departs at 355.25. V2 is acting as a waypoint. It arrives at 355 and it departs at 355. So that's a non-stop straight through, which seems accurate here. Therefore, it says 0 for the overlap, but it's actually 0.25, and it's between these two here. Technically, it's between these three, but it's the departure and the arrival that is the problem. Because waypoints, of course, are now being considered as waypoints. So these are now issues. Now, what I'm not understanding is why the simulated annealing didn't resolve that one. Why it didn't hold the GSE to Sunnington service at Drunnington and Tenfing Bridge, say, for an extra half a minute. That's the bit I'm not exactly sure of there. This one, yeah, this is a confusing one as well. God City St Michael to Sunnington, semi-fast. Yeah, no, I am confused about this one. So if you open these up, you can see the chains. These are the chains I was talking about. So the current is Knotlob North. The next is Mewood Coastal, so it's running to Sunnington. The previous was Knotlob. And these trains are supposed to arrive at the exact same time. It's almost like the SA process just didn't do anything here. That's a really strange one. Conflict 56 is an occupancy overlap of 0.75 minutes, which looks to be between these 2 points here. Yeah, that seems to be accurate. So that's a 3-minute stop time at the station there. This is Fluetown. And that's between the Sanley to Sunnington service. Okay, so it's one of the new ones at last. and the Guard City St. Michael to Plindon service. And again, if this just had a minute taken off it, it would actually depart before the next one arrives. Yeah, that's interesting as well. What I'm starting to gather from this is maybe there are too many trains. Maybe there are too many trains. But we're not really here to fix this. I'm here to show you this. But it seems like the next episode of this series is going to be fixing this part of the code and not actually working on the next bit. This one... so this is another exception. So what have we got here? We've got GSMI to Sanley, and we've got Sanley to Sunnington. This is where the two trains diverge. So this one is heading north, or yeah, northeast, back towards Guard City. This one is heading north to Sanley. You can see they both come through Portfield. They both go through Condhall through, but whereas one turns east and heads through Sannington, which is V1 in this case, V2 continues north and goes to Freyham Parkway. And the overlap here is they are due to arrive at that station at the exact same time. So that's one I want to investigate. So that's St. Michael to Sanley Express. And then St. Michael to Sanley... Oh, wait, sorry, no, that's the same one. St. Michael to Sanley Express, and then Sanley to Sunnington Express. I'm going to leave that open for a second. What am I looking for? St. Michael to Sanley, and you are vehicle number 1. And it's around 490. Yeah, there's a lot here to look through. St. Michael to Sanley. Are these in alphabetical order? That's useful. They appear to be so. And it was vehicle 1, yes? Oh, that's not... Okay. That's not loading. If I come up here, again, if these are in alphabetical order, that will be useful. Sanley to Fort Flonwood, Guard City St. Michael to Sanley Central. And it was vehicle 1. And it was around the 490. So it's not that one. It's going to be the top one. 490, around here-ish. Yeah, Condall through. Okay. 490.5, 490.5. So the next stop, because you are not an express, so I think you stop at New Puston, do you not? No, it appears you go straight through, but you definitely stop at Kindingham and you stop there for 2 minutes. Yeah. So why was it not... Why was there no SA process at... do you know what it is, guys? I think 5,000 seems like a big number. You see here it did 5,065. Now the way this is set up is it has to do 5,000 consecutive iterations with no improvement before it times out. So somewhere, well, anywhere between 0 and 65 there were improvements. From 65 onwards there were no improvements in the score, and that's in this case the number of conflicts. And they did 5,000 consecutive iterations and then timed out. So I'm wondering, because there are 44 services here, which means 44 schedules, and in this case you see there are several, like here there's 576 stations just in this one. So that could be 576 iterations that could randomly be selected just from this schedule. Obviously some of them are waypoints, so that might not necessarily be the case. Let's put a number on it and say around 200. Now times that by 44. You've got something like 80,000, I think, just there. That's obviously... Well, is it 80,000 or is it 8,000? Might be 8,000 actually. Yeah, I think it's 8,000 and something. But it's not feasible. Like, that's already beyond the limit before it times out. So maybe I just need to increase the limit, which means it's going to take longer, admittedly, but there will be a point where I can already see here. So what was the other one involved? It was Sanley to Sunnington. which is this one, and it was vehicle number 2. And again, we're looking for one around the 490 condal there. So yeah, already I'm looking at this and realizing, so that's 490.5, that's 490.5. If I come up here, that's 490.5 and that's 490.5 because this is a waypoint here at condal through. If either of these was held for just a minute, it would stop this conflict from being a thing. But I guess neither of these schedules were selected. So what I'm going to do, and I'm going to try not to waste too much longer of your time, but this is one of the reasons why I want to sack off this whole thing and start again, because we're getting to the point, the more schedules you upload to this, first of all, the harder this console window is to read. The second problem is the less likely the SA process is actually going to resolve it. Now, you saw what was happening when this number was going up. It was going up by like 5 or 6 a second. Every single time that number goes up, let me just quickly give you a recap as to what it's actually doing. It is taking all of the schedules. It is deconstructing them back into their raw data. It's then randomly selecting one of those. It is randomly selecting a station within that, or it's selecting the entire schedule and applying an offset to it. And by that I mean, instead of it leaving the first station at 6 AM, it will leave at 6:01. So that's a 1 minute offset. It can do that up to, I think it's 10 minutes. It can offset the entire schedule by. So every single arrival and departure time will be increased by up to 10 minutes. Let's ignore that one for a second. Let's just say the random selection one. So it will randomly select a station, and in this case it's an actual station. So for this schedule here, sorry, that's a conflict. For this schedule here, Slenwell Ridge here, number 18, that is an actual station because it arrives at 4:15 and leaves at 4:15.5. And that's 4:15 and then 4:15.5, not to be confused with 4:15 as an actual time. It could choose this one and it can say, instead of leaving at 4:15.5, let's add another half a minute to that. So it leaves at 4:16. That, just by doing that, can solve conflicts all the way down here. And it only does it for the first leg of the first journey in each schedule. The reason being is each schedule is repeated. So if you fix it for the first one, the likelihood is you'll fix it for the other ones. And I did wonder, what if you have ones where, you know, one service doesn't start until like midday? Well, that one's first service would then be the one that's adjusted in order to provide a solution. So I think what's happening here is it's not actually adjusting the services properly. And I think the other problem, which I've just thought about, which is why I hesitated there for a second, the ones that are already issues, so this one, these are two services that we haven't introduced here. These are services that already existed, but what we have done is change the code so that these weren't issues before, because waypoints weren't, or stations acting as waypoints weren't being factored in properly, but now they are. So I think what's happened here is to do with the number here. So this times run is now set to 2, which means every time I run this, there's a little penalty that's applied. Oh, I never actually, sorry, hang on, I'm distracting myself. Let me finish the explanation as to how this works, and then I'll tell you what I think's happened here. So yeah, what it does is it takes the schedule and it strips it back to its raw data. It then does the simulated annealing process, so it either applies an offset or it chooses a random station and adds a time to it, or it can subtract a time from it as well. But more often than not, it will apply a time. It then checks the parameters of that stopping period to see if it still fits within the constraints that I've set. So, for example, an express train has to stop for a minimum of, I think it's 1.5 minutes. It might even be 2 minutes at certain stations. At terminus stations, it ensures that the minimum layover is always observed. So the train cannot stop for a minimum for a time less than its minimum layover. And there is also a maximum layover, which is the frequency of the service. So if, let's say the minimum layover is 10 minutes and the frequency is 60 minutes, that means that layover time can be anywhere between 10 and 60 minutes, but no more and no less. So there's still quite a big, wide playing field to play around with there. But overall, it has to stay within those two times. Once it's applied that simulated annealing process and it has done all of the checks and they've all come back as good, the final thing it does is reconstructs all of the schedules, and then it runs the conflict detection process again. And that's where it gets the score as to how many conflicts are remaining. If there are less than there were previously, chances are it will accept the change. If there are more, then it will reject the change. Now, where I think the problems are is when you look at the times run, there is a hidden calculation that takes place as to what services to apply the offset and adjustments to. If the number here is 0, the calculation is times run multiplied by, and I think it's like 1 million or something like that. It's a really high number. Might even be 100 million. That's the cost factor, and it's trying to make an adjustment with the most minimum cost. Is that even the right way of saying it? The less cost, the better, basically. So times run 0, times that by whatever number, you're going to get 0. So therefore, that's the lowest cost. Chances are it will do that. 1, suddenly that increases by, 1 million, 100 million, whatever it might be. 2, it's that number doubled. 3, it's that number doubled again. And I think that's the problem with this especially, is neither of these services can actually have an adjustment applied to them because this number is coming up too high. And if I check Drunnington and Tenfing Bridge to Sunnington, yeah, that's been run twice. And Guard City St. Elizabeth to Sunnington, well, that's the same franchise, so that's also going to say twice. So I think what I need to do, and I'm going to do this off camera, you guys don't need to worry about this. The point is you see how this works now, and you see why I've taken so long with it, and you see why I can't stand the sight of it right now. But what I'm going to do is, those JSON files that I uploaded, they're very easily editable. I can just open them up in Notepad and change whatever I need to. There are certain things that I won't change because that'll mess things up, but one thing I can change is I can reset all these numbers here to 0. And that's what I'm going to do. And then I'm going to run the whole program again, and I'm going to see what happens. But you guys don't need to worry about that. If, though, you've been watching this and you're sat there thinking, this is a horrible way of doing it, why hasn't he done it using XYZ? By all means, comment below and tell me what XYZ is. Because right now, when I create the database, I'm going to do everything in my power to avoid using the SA simulated annealing process. It was a really good idea at the time, the Flexi-Schedule. And actually what I said to my coding tool when I came up with this was I want the program to be smart enough to find a free slot somewhere between all the existing services where it can run the new one. And in JavaScript, which is what this program is coded in, HTML and Java, it couldn't do that. But I'm hoping with Python and some other languages that I don't speak, it might be able to find a better way of doing it. Excuse me. So when you, as a franchise operator, come on board and you want to run your trains, as you're setting up your schedule, it will automatically carve a path for you, basically. Preferably without interrupting other people's services, but we'll have to see about that. But something here is not right. The fact that there are 400 conflicts remaining, some of which are on services that already exist. So that actually I think of as an encouraging thing, because that is telling me that the program is now working better than it did before, because it has correctly identified this as being an issue. And if I look at this, you are heading back towards Guard City, if I'm not mistaken, or Drunnington and Tenfing Bridge, sorry. Let me just hop back on openttd. I know you can't see what I'm doing right now, but I believe that to be the case, because Honley Market Mill which is one of the stations listed here, is it not? Yep, previous is Honley Market Mill. Current is Fendingworth South. Yeah, so that's actually one of the ones that was being highlighted. As in, when I was complaining about this in the, not the last episode of the main series, but the one before, that is one of the things that I'd noticed, was there was a little bit of a chase going on there. What's interesting, though, is it doesn't appear to have found the express train chasing the slow train on the Northwestern franchise, which is interesting that it hasn't done that. But maybe this, because this is the first time I've done this since reducing the service numbers as well, so maybe that's what's done that. I don't know. But yeah, there are 38 conflicts involving this set of parameters here. You can tell that because here it says conflict 1, there it says conflict 39. I've deliberately set it up so that it only shows the first conflict in each set. So here, as I said, there are 38 conflicts between these two services at this station. At this station, Fendingworth South. And yeah, if I fix this first one, it will fix all 38 because of the way it works. Then we've got however many here. What's that? Another 17 or so. Involving, well, it's at Notlob this time. And these are between existing trains. Which this one I hadn't noticed before, actually. So I'm not quite sure. Maybe that was a simulated annealing that caused that one. Anyway, yeah. I'm going to go away and have a look at this and see if I can fix it. And then the next time I see you in this series, I will be starting work on populating the database, I think, because quite clearly this project here was the last attempt to make this system work before I fully commit to the database project, and it's still failing clearly. So I think it's a limit with the code, and I think it's a limit with my ability. So I've already got someone on board who's offered their services to help, which I'm really grateful for. If anyone else wishes to do so as well, by all means get in touch. You can join my Discord in the link down below, and I will be leaning on your experience quite a lot, I'm afraid, so be prepared for that one. But yeah, let me know what you think down below. Let me know if you think this was at least a good intention gone wrong, or if this was just doomed from the start. I'll be very interested in hearing. If you've got any alternatives for this, by all means let me know. And if you are an HTML Java programmer and you think you can fix this for me, let me know that as well, and I'll send you over the program and see if you can work your magic. But for now, thanks for watching. Don't forget to hit the like button if you enjoyed the video, and of course if you're enjoying the series. Drop some comments down below with all that good stuff. If you haven't already subscribed to the channel, be sure to hit the subscribe button. If you have already subscribed to the channel, thank you for your continued support. And until next time, I will see you soon.